Kinmond. I'm a technical specialist instructor with the New Hampshire Local Technical Assistance Program located here at the University of New Hampshire Technology Transfer Center. And I'm going to spend about 20 minutes or so talking about Snow Fighters Go Green, certifying Salt Smarts in New Hampshire. And certainly certifying Salt Smarts in New Hampshire is what we call our New Hampshire Green SnowPro program for both private and municipal snow operators here in the state. And we provide training, and we do that in collaboration with our folks at the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services Salt Reduction Program. And Audrey Volker, who I'll share her contact information. So if you'd like to get more information at the end of the presentation, we work hand in hand with Aubrey. I call her our Green SnowPro guru and salt reduction person. So it's a great thing, and she's been with us for several years now, which is it's been a great success. I'll also kind of round out the presentation today with a discussion about how these best management practices have worked here in our Green SnowPro process, and a success story in a Lakes Region community, which I served as the Public Works Director in. So this is going to give you a little bit of my bio. You'll probably, as you look at this slide, you'll say, geez, this guy has worn many hats. And certainly I've had some great experiences in my career here. My municipal career has been very active. I've also been a private and municipal winter operations contractor out there. And as Allison mentioned, I just got off a 9-hour shift working for a private contractor. Actually, I use this little side gig, as I call it, to get some great material to help share with my students that I work with in these snow operations. But my gig last night was operating a double wing 10-wheeler Mack dump truck and plowing a section of highway here in New Hampshire for the New Hampshire DOT. So I enjoyed that, made 3 or 4 runs at that, and spread a little salt as well. So it was successful, no breakdowns, no collisions, things were all good. Roads are black and wet when I left there. But you can see that my career has actually spanned a law enforcement career. And then I moved from law enforcement after spending 11 years as a police chief. And once again, I always was doing the municipal and private winter operations, maintenance operations. I then moved into becoming a public works director, road agent. I was first elected in the same community I served as a police chief, and served that community for a little over 7 years. And then I've also did another stint with another Lakes Region community here in New Hampshire, where I created a public works department for that community, bringing in all the different entities of public works under one umbrella. And I did spend some time in public administration with a town administrator in a town in New Hampshire as well. So I got to touch all the different pieces of town government, which I really did enjoy. But my real passion is being out and being able to interact with folks out there and doing public works activities. So I've been very fortunate in my career. I tell people I'm not a teacher. I'm a facilitator and a sharer of some of my life experiences and a little bit about my hard knocks of doing the work. So as we kind of dive into this just a little bit, I want to tell you a little bit about the Green SnowPro initiative that came about here in New Hampshire, actually a little over 10 years ago now. It came about after some high chloride readings were revealed on some watersheds located in and around the I-93 corridor widening project that the New Hampshire DOT was doing in South Central New Hampshire, and in collaboration with New Hampshire DOT and our folks at New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services. They identified, certainly a need to educate and train salt applicators, both private, commercial, municipal, and state, to reduce any overuse of road salt, both on private and public properties out there. And in 2013, the state legislature passed a bill to provide for a voluntary commercial salt applicators certification, whereas these folks that become certified applicators and their clients would they would be protected against tort liability claims on those properties if they were following all the best management practices in which they are instructed upon, and also make sure that they do their recording, detailed logging of events, and also do the record keeping and provide those records to New Hampshire DES, the environmental services there, as to their salt usage within the communities in which they have properties in which they serve. So this has been very successful in New Hampshire. I remember being involved in its onset as it came on, and to the tune of that, when we checked our statistics. Actually, we've trained a little over, in the past 10 plus years now, a little over 2,450 operators have been trained, and it certainly has grown throughout, as far as in its operation itself. And I think, now where it has now evolved into our municipal side of things, which I'll chat a little bit about as we go through the slides here, as to how that actually works on the municipal side as well. A couple other little statistics that Aubrey was able to help share with me to kind of put some things in perspective for you, is that when they first started this, actually in the winter season of 2013, 2014, there was 35 green SnowPro certificates which were issued, and that involved 22 different companies. And in 2023-2024 winter season, there were 712 green SnowPro certificates which were issued, and that involved 177 companies. So there's been great participation on that side. And as I mentioned, we have now started to evolve into the municipal side as well. So to give you a little bit of an overview as to what the commercial green SnowPro program is, once again, heavy emphasis relative to the salt use and proper reporting and compliance is part of the training in which is provided. It is a full day course that we provide. There is an exam that folks must take and pass, and they submit an application to the Department of Environmental Services. They do provide for 3 different tiers of certification, which is a master certification for larger organizations or companies, and then individual and subordinate certifications, as well as there may be other smaller operators that would best fit those models. Renewals are annual, and the associated training which is required is that every 6 years, operators must attend a full course and pass an exam. So every 6 years they go through that, and then every 2 years they need to have at least 2 hours of refresher training. And I'll give you some highlights as to what those are here shortly, as to what we do for some of these different training evolutions. to get folks certified and also to keep their refreshers. There is an approved master certification for individuals to train subordinates. So a larger organization can establish a master, and they can do the training for their organization and documentation for such that way. Track usage by storm. So that is that record keeping piece that I mentioned, where your documentation of date and time, weather conditions, temperatures, pavement, air temperatures, and also different application rates and types of products which were used. And it is a fee-based certification as well. And those fees range from $100 to up to $250 for different agencies in their participation based upon the different levels that they have for certifications. As I mentioned, the municipal side, in 2024, actually, New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services established a voluntary municipal green SnowPro certification. And many towns are considering this for their staff development, training, assisting with EPA permits such as MS4, and also for salt reduction plans within their communities, using this as a component in order to help meet some of those, and also looking to be good environmental partners. And New Hampshire is a rich environmental resource. Has a lot of natural resources. Is very vibrant as far as its natural resources out there. There are thousands of residents and second homeowners and visitors that come to our state to enjoy the lakes and the mountains, and certainly folks that reside here and work here certainly want to do the best to preserve those natural resources the best that they can. I used to tell my staff, if you contaminate or damage these areas, it will have a tremendous impact on the quality of life, not only for us who live here, and the folks who visit here, and then overall our economy itself. So we certainly want to be good stewards, environmental stewards. So the Green SnowPro on the education side of things, as I mentioned, my role with the New Hampshire Local Technical Assistance Program, we provide that training. So folks that may not be familiar with what a local technical assistance program is, or an LTAP, each state in the country, including Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, actually has a local technical assistance program for their state and jurisdiction. There is also tribal local technical assistance programs as well throughout the country. And what we do is provide technical assistance for those local government entities in and around highway maintenance and road maintenance operations. So this is very fitting that this dovetails in with the folks at Environmental Services to be able to provide this training. The full day training is we've developed a Snow Fighters seminar, and that's part of our Green SnowPro program itself. And we've also developed a couple other training programs as well. We have a strategy for winter operations for supervisors and directors as well. Our 2-hour refresher program, as I mentioned, we have a data-driven winter operations side of things, how to collect that data, how to record the data. And then we've done a couple other trainings as well. We've calibration trainings and myths and truths about liquids and treated salts as well. I think we called it salt tea as one of our catchy phrases for it. But we provide those. So we keep a good variety as we go through. On that training and education side of things, the training sessions provide a lot of group classroom activities, As I mentioned, salt spreader calibration is reviewed, and understanding what the right amount of de-icer that needs to be utilized for those different types of pavement conditions based upon the weather and varying temperatures. So we spend a lot of time doing that and working with the groups to do that. We've had good success with that in pulling those evolutions together. We've also reviewed equipment types and uses for different product types out there as well. So some of those equipment items may be variable plow blades. As we know, it's the best way to remove snow from any paved surface is to actually plow it off, not to utilize chemicals and other ways to burn it off our pavement. We want to mechanically remove it. So we go and spend a lot of time making sure that folks know all those different things about plow blades and different types of technologies that way. We also provide information about different types of products, not only about salt itself, but treated salts that may be treated with other types of chlorides or other types of carbohydrates, such as sugars. We're providing information in regards to that, and also the use of salt brines and liquids, and any other types of innovations that happen to pop up. We try to stay on top of that and provide that. You can see some of these slides here that I provided. We also go over different things as far as air temperature and pavement temperature, and the importance of being able to have that as a tool for the work that we actually do out there and making those decisions when to apply de-icers and the types of de-icers to apply. So as we kind of evolve into this here, I want to spend a few minutes and kind of give you a little bit of a overview here about a success story about how this Green SnowPro model of best management practices has actually worked here in a Lakes Region community on the north side of Lake Winnipesaukee in Moultonborough, where I was the road agent public works director. So in that community itself, this one here, just to give you a little bit of a sense as to what the community is about, but it's located, as I mentioned, on Lake Winnipesaukee, has the largest amount of shoreline on Lake Winnipesaukee, a little over 60 miles of shoreline on Lake Winnipesaukee. It's also located in the Ospey Mountain Range, so it has some mountainous area to the north as well. And the community's year-round population is about 4,000, but swells to about 20 or 25,000 in the summer months due to high second home base, and also our seasonal visitors and tourists to the area to enjoy the natural resources that I mentioned with the hiking and boating and a lot of recreational activities out there with swimming and biking and such. The region itself is a mix of rural, agricultural, and residential. It does have some commercial base, but it's relatively small itself. But one commercial-based activity actually affected this area, which is actually located in the Ospey Mountain area of what we call Ossipee Park Road. So Ospey Park Road is in fact a town road, and it is about 1.3 miles long. It was reconstructed in the mid 2000s and to accommodate a commercial application of a bottling plant, and it's one of the largest in the state, and is allowed to bottle water if you Google the Castle in the Clouds in New Hampshire, you'll get a great perspective and some beautiful pictures from that area up there. but it's a old castle, which was built originally by a man by the name of Mr. Plant, and it has been completely and continues to be rehabbed and is a very active event and tourist attraction in the community itself. And also adjacent to that property at the summit of that area is a water bottling plant. And if you should get bottled water from CG Roxanne, check your label. And if it says Moltenboro, New Hampshire on it, this is the location in which it was bottled. And it comes from a natural source. The last I knew, it is a natural source. It does not have to have any type of treatment to the water which is bottled. And they are permitted to extract up to 1 million gallons a day for bottling water. And the town had approved them for being able to have up to 40 tractor trailer trucks a day to traverse this 1.3 mile town roadway, to go up and get bottled water. And so we had tractor trailer trucks that were go up and down that hill year round. And as you can imagine, in the winter time, it was a little bit of a challenge. The hill itself has about a 12% grade in some of the steep sections of it. It's guardrailed on one side, and needless to say, it was quite a challenge. So my predecessor, who was the road agent beforehand, was worked very, very hard to try to keep the road in good condition, was involved in its rebuild, and was using straight salt in order to try to keep the road passable and safe for these trucks to go up and down. So you can imagine a tractor trailer truck, can range between 80,000 and 100,000 pounds in its gross vehicle weight there. And trying to keep that so that it can get up the hill empty and then come down the hill full is quite a challenge. Unfortunately, because of the high use of rock salt in trying to keep the roadway in good, safe condition for the traffic, there was a groundwater farm reservoir that had a spike, a significant spike in chloride readings, which the abutting property owner was not happy about whatsoever, as you can well imagine. And as we know, water runs downhill, and eventually all water will make itself to a watershed and or a water body like Lake Winnipesaukee. So we undertook in that community an initiative to research and find out what the best management practices were relative to trying to find alternatives in order to look at how we can mitigate our salt use on the hill itself. And it all started with a lot of the basics, and you have to know what you're putting out to start with. So calibration of equipment started that process. And then we looked at alternatives in order to reduce salt application itself. And we went to transition to pre-wet salts. And we did that with a mag chloride based liquid as well, and also with salt brine, and reduced our applications of rock salt to that roadway by 50%. So we were successful, and as it was reviewed periodically, and those chloride levels within the reservoir, we did see that the chloride levels took some significant reduction and went down over time. And to give you a sense, application rates when they were first started putting out straight rock salt, we estimated that they were putting out approximately 300 to 350 pounds per lane mile. And when we transitioned to using pre-wet salt, we were able to reduce that by 50%, and our application rates went down to 150 to 180 pounds, depending on what the types of conditions and temperatures were in regards to that. So we found that that was a success story. First of all, we had a chloride reduction in our testing and monitoring of that groundwater reservoir, which is a great thing to see happen. We did transitions townwide to transition from sand salt applications to actually using treated salts, and also experimented also with salt brine as a anti-icing mechanism. And some of those photos I shared earlier were some of those photos that we transitioned to some of our roads and our town properties to utilize salt brine and super brine in order to do some of those treatments. So that is a little bit about the success story in New Hampshire. Two success stories, in my opinion. One being the Green SnowPro program, which I have great passion for, and I think we continue to move it in a positive direction and trying to help do salt management here in New Hampshire. I was told just the other day that New Hampshire was actually one of the first states in the Northeast to actually use road salt. And heard that just yesterday. I haven't been able to verify that myself, but that's from what I understand. And as if you do look, unfortunately, the Northeast is one of the highest users of rock salt. So other folks in other parts of the country have certainly done other initiatives and innovations, and we continue to learn and make transitions to try to minimize our salt use in the state. So with that, we kind of wrap things up here. And I know we're coming up on our time. And here is my contact information, and also Aubrey's contact information if you'd like to learn more about New Hampshire's initiatives here on the Green SnowPro program, or any other successes that we've done with our training and education. We'd be happy to share. And thank you very much for being able to attend today's webinar. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Scott.
I think I can close out of this for you. So.
Yeah. And while you do that, it looks like we do have a couple questions that have popped up here in the chat. One of them is, what is super brine?
So, good question. So super brine itself is actually salt brine, which has been enhanced either with a additional chloride. So generally it's 80% salt brine, and then 20% or 20% or less of a mag chloride, or could be calcium chloride. We've seen it as mag chloride. Other folks in the Northeast region are also experimenting and using sugars. So they're using either beet juice or beet sugar for that, and also experimenting with other sugars to help enhance the salt brine itself and help its freeze point.
Excellent. All right. So Ethan is asking, well, first says, thank you for sharing the success stories. Does New Hampshire use live edge plow blades to reduce the need for salting? If so, any comments? Are they cost effective for municipalities?
So the quick answer to that is yes. It's not, I wouldn't say it's uniformly statewide from what I've seen from talking to other municipalities, but it has taken great growth, I would say, over the last 3 to 5 years as far as using variable edge snow plows. The state, New Hampshire DOT, utilizes variable blades on state highways. They've had great successes with those, and several municipalities have started to transition into those edges as well. It continues to grow as people continue to learn, and there's an initial cost involved, and until you make an investment and then see how well the investment pays, some people are a tad bit hesitant until they talk to their neighbors and other folks to find out how it is. But we've found in talking to folks and and also with our counterparts in Massachusetts at Bay State Roads as well. They've indicated that with those variable edge blades, they've been able to get anywhere from 3 to 4 full seasons on a plow blade. And with carbide edges, I can recall some years that were very, very busy, and we changed them 3 to 4 times. So needless to say, they will pay for themselves, but there's an initial capital outlay for those.
We definitely have seen a lot of movement towards sectional and then the kind of live edge blades in Wisconsin, also rubberized blades, having like the
Yes.
carbide cutting edge and a rubbery blade that can almost be like a squeegee down the road. But
Yep.
again, that's like work on certain roads, right? If the pavement condition isn't great, you're just chewing that rubber up. But
Right. Yeah, in New Hampshire, that is a very popular blade. New Hampshire DOT uses a blade that has that combination with it as well. And there's a few other communities that are using that. There's been some hesitation because in New Hampshire, a lot of rural communities both have paved surfaces and gravel surfaces. So they're concerned, as it is, I'm sure other places in the
yeah.
country have the same thing going on. They're concerned about, if in fact that's going to be more difficult to navigate those gravel roads, and certainly certain times of the year that it can be a challenge in doing that.
All right, so another question here, where in New Hampshire is beet juice being used? I think you mentioned beet juice as an additive, right, in the super brine, so.
Right. So I am not aware in New Hampshire of a beet juice that's being used currently, but I do know in Massachusetts that beet juice is being used down there. Actually, the town of Lexington, Massachusetts. I spoke with the public works director down there, and hopefully I will see him tomorrow in at Bay State Roads. He has been actively using beet juice with his salt brine, as he calls it beet sugar, but it's a beet juice with that. And I know, I guess more in central and in Midwest areas of the country, there's been some use of some of those types of products as well. I know when this was over 10 years ago when I went to the APWA Snow and Ice Conference. That was when things were just kind of getting sparked up about it, and there was a lot of discussion about it. There's a cost involved getting it to the East Coast, I think, but just because we don't have a lot of beet production, so it's a shipping thing. I think that's the reason why it hasn't been used sooner.
As much, yeah. Yeah, I just want to like again emphasize as Scott has that the sugars from beet juice or in beet juice, the sugars from like molasses, other agricultural byproducts are used as additives. So sometimes I think the media likes to say like, oh, beet juice is going down on the roads or whatever it might be, cheese brine in Wisconsin, but those things are going to be added into a salt brine because sugars themselves don't melt snow and ice.
No.
So it can, as Scott said, kind of drop that refreeze temperature. So it buys the plow operators more time. Sugars also reduce corrosion. So there are a few added benefits. They help that brine stick to the
Yeah,
road
definitely.
surface.
Those
Um,
sugars have a lot of, like you said, that they're an additive, and they've
mhm.
got a lot of pluses.
Yeah. All right. So Caleb chimed in here about the live edge blades, saying that they work very well on certain roads. As again, you kind of shared, Scott, the longevity offsets the costs, and by molding to a misshaped roadway, can remove more of the snow.
Yeah,
So,
definitely. Um, I I transitioned into live edge blades actually 2 years ago now in the community that I was working in, and had some roads that were pretty out of shape. If they were rural roads, town roads, and they were really out of shape, and they really were worth their money that way. They were able to get that snow off the road and allow for us to be able to get any of the chemical directly to the pavement, which is the key factor there. And that way you can use less chemical.
All right. Devin said, thank you for speaking today after such a long shift. Can you expand on the fees for municipalities to do the voluntary training? What exactly do the fees go toward?
So the fees on the private side, that basically helps fund the actual program itself, and the salt reduction program in New Hampshire. And the On the municipal side of things, there is a fee involved in the municipal side, that way, and we're working towards, as I mentioned on the municipal side, is that EPA permitting. So there's certain communities in New Hampshire that are under several of them are under the what we call MS4 EPA permitting that way, which does have a salt reduction component in it, and also record keeping and management of that. So we see that is a component that can help in that situation there, with folks being trained and certified, that they can utilize that to show to EPA that they're getting their folks in good order and up to speed on that training and education there to help out with that initiative itself. We're also looking at what we can do. Anytime you make a change and want folks to come in on something on the private side, the real carrot there is, in fact, the tort liability protection that they have. Insurance companies love it. It helps protect them. But on the municipal side of things, we're looking to try to see if there's some innovations that can be assisted with maybe potentially grant funding, or being able to get points when folks apply for certain grants, on any kind of water protection or water source protection. So we're trying to work that effort, and also potentially coming up with funding for training.
And looks like Aubrey actually just wanted to chime in here
Oh,
with
good.
a response about the fees. So it says the $450 fee for municipal certification is an annual certification fee that goes to the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services. Because the Green Snow program it's a fee-funded program, so it just helps keep the program going. I think Aubrey works, part-time, right? Kind of administering the program. So that's what we've got. And then there are training fees through University of New Hampshire, the technology training program, the T2, that are separate from the certification fee. So it's like paying
Right. Yeah, for classes.
your time, Scott. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it looks like, okay, someone from the UNH Technology Transfer Center just kind of put that in there too.
Yeah. Yeah, folks do pay. I mean, we provide the training. They pay for the training through the folks at the Technology Transfer Center, so they do pay that fee. Plus, their application fee, as Aubrey mentioned, that goes directly to support her program and the salt reduction program.
Yeah, okay, so I think we've got that in there. I'm limited in terms of my character count in the chat, so I didn't get all of Aubrey's answer in there, but I think we've covered that. Then Mary had also asked a question about the kind of prior litigation on the Green Snow program. And so I guess, yeah, lawsuits in the past that have been just kind of ended in court. And I put in there a link to a prior webinar, because I know, Scott, that's a little outside of your wheelhouse. So Mary, anyone who wants to, can go on and watch that. It's with Ted Deers from New Hampshire Department of Environmental Quality, right? No, Department of Environmental Services. Sorry, someone earlier was from a DEQ. Yes, as well as Aubrey, who had mentioned and gotten several kudos. Thanks, Aubrey, for your work on today's webinar and kind of year round. But yeah, Aubrey and Steve all kind of talking about kind of how this program started, what it does, and what we've seen in court. So I would recommend if anyone wants to learn more, check that out. Also, Ted will be speaking tomorrow, but it's part of a pretty quick panel discussion. So I don't know, how deep of a dive we'll be able to do tomorrow, but would recommend checking that out. We've got a question here from Katie. Are municipalities outside of New Hampshire able to participate in the Green Snow Pro training?
So I and Marilee will probably chime in here because she'll know better, but anybody can take the training. So if in fact there was, we were in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and there was, folks in Sanford, Maine, or, and our counterparts over there on the Maine side, very similar to if we were over on the Vermont border. Certainly any of those folks could in fact attend the training itself. They would not be, unless they are providing or they are performing services within New Hampshire. I believe the tort liability would only be coverage within New Hampshire. So we have had folks that, are on a border business and that go back and forth between New Hampshire and Maine, for an example, if I recall. And, they were trained up and got certified, and they file their application with New Hampshire and file their paperwork reporting such they with Aubrey. So the training's open to both private and municipal.
I know in Wisconsin, there are folks that go across the border to Minnesota's LTAP training programs, if those are closer for them. And I think Wisconsin actually has an LTAP winter maintenance training program that's virtual, and people from Texas have joined in on it.
Yep.
Not too many, I guess, winter maintenance training classes in Texas, but who
Right.
knows? Maybe that'll be changing.
That may change. They did have some weather this past week or 10 days ago.
Yeah, like the last few years, they've got hit with some bigger storms than we have. But all right. So that's what I see right now. I'm just double checking my Gmail for questions as well as the chat. So yeah, I think we can wrap it up there and just say thanks again, Scott, so much for joining. Like I said, I'm going to pick your brain a little bit more after this because I want to steal some of those great lesson ideas. We're all about really, interactive, engaging kind of coursework with our plow operators here in Wisconsin. And I want to steal a couple of your gems.
No, that's great, and we're always willing to help share. I mean, we've got a great team at our LTAP center, and we've got the winter whammy. So make sure you ask me about the winter whammy.
Okay, no, sounds good. And who knows, maybe
Yeah,
I'll see you at.
Marilee created that one. She did a great job, and it always gets people thinking.
All right. Well, thanks again, everybody. I'll be on many more times here today for some of the folks from other states. And otherwise, we invite you to come back tomorrow for our policy panel with Ted Deers from New Hampshire. We've got Kara from Ohio EPA and Brian from Bloomington, Minnesota. So great. It's a great conversation to be had tomorrow. But until then, all the best. And Scott, hopefully you can get some sleep here.
No problem. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your winter.